Guys, welcome to another budget video. Today we're going to sit down and have a look at what is happening in our family's budget for October. And we're also going to go ahead and stuff our October envelopes. Yes, we are going back to using envelopes this month. We've had restrictions ease a little bit here in regional Victoria, so we are going to go back to what works for us, and that is most definitely using cash envelopes for some of our variable expenses. And hey, if we haven't had a chance to hang out before, my name is Nikki. I'm a mum of 3 and I love sharing all of the tips and tricks that have helped our family budget better, demolish all of our debt. We paid off $73,000 worth of debt in just 22 months, and now we are working on some big savings goals, like saving up to buy our first home 100% with cash. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you want to hang out some more, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button down below. It's the best way to be notified when my new videos come out. All right, but today we're talking budgets. Let's jump in and have a look at our family's budget for October. But before we do that, just a couple of things. If you guys are new to following us, there's a couple of things you probably need to know about us before we jump in and have a look at our budget. The first thing is that we do a month ahead budget, and what that means is we stockpile all of our income from 1 month. In this case, this is all of September's income. We put it into what we call our holding tank account, and then we divide that up on the first of the next month. So this is all of September's income. We're dividing this up and budgeting for October, and that is what we will use to live off in October, while we stockpile all of October's income to live off during November. That makes sense, yeah? If that does, why don't you go ahead and hit that thumbs up button so I know that you know what I'm talking about makes sense. All right, that sounds awesome. The other thing that's probably important to know about us is that we do a split budget when it comes to our money management system. So we use cash envelopes for some of our variable expenses, particularly things like groceries and fuel and clothing and eating out, all of those variable expenses that can really change week to week or month to month depending on how much we choose to spend in those categories. For our fixed expenses, things like our phone bill and internet and those sorts of things, we prefer to use digital payments. So we have set up multiple sinking funds for those funds to go into to be parked until we need to pay for those bills. So for example, we have a sinking fund for our car maintenance, which means we put a little bit aside every month, and then when we have a bill due for our car, we will pay for it out of that specific account. All right, so with that out of the way, let's jump in and have a look at what's happening in our budget for October. All right, well, here we have October's budget, and October's budget sheet. And unfortunately, it got a little bit bent, but you know what, that's real life, and it'll flatten itself out in the budget binder over a couple of months. I'm not too worried about it. Let's jump in and have a look at what is happening for us in our budget this month. And to be honest, there is not a lot going on because we are working really hard at the moment to save as much money as we can. We're really trying to use this current situation where, you know, the advice is to stay home, to not go out unless you really need to. We're trying to use that as an opportunity for us to save as much as we absolutely can. So we have kept the budget a bare bones budget again this month, and we're looking at putting as much as we can from our snowball into our house savings fund. So first of all, these 2 pages, this is a system that we sort of developed after a lot of trial and error, and this is what works for us and the way that we like to track our money. What we like to do is we like to start by doing a snapshot of where we are. And what I do at the end of each month is I just write down the balances of all of our sinking funds and our savings accounts. Now, while we were paying off debt, the other thing that I did track was our debts, and I was tracking how they were coming down each month as we were paying them off, and it really kept us focused on not only our goal, which at that time was to pay off our debt, but now it's keeping us focused on our goals, which are our savings accounts. The other thing that I do like to track on this financial snapshot are our goals, because that does definitely keep us focused on what we're trying to do. And I have a little section down the bottom that tracks all of our bills. And the reason why I really like to do this is because I can look back over the months and I can check year to year and I can see how much our bills are actually increasing and whether or not we should really be looking at trying to rein those in, bring those down, and maybe even get a better deal. So having any of the bills that we pay each month recorded in here as well, it's really quick and easy to flick back through all of these sheets and have a look. We can have a look at what bills were due last October, how much they cost. Not only does it help us prepare for future months, but it also keeps us tracking our fixed expenses and how they are changing over time. So that's definitely very helpful. Over on this side is our actual spending plan. So like I said in the beginning of the video, we do a monthly budget. We didn't always start that way. We were doing a paycheck to paycheck budget, but we have slowly but surely worked our way into a month ahead budget, which definitely helps us, I think, not only when it comes to saving and budgeting, but also it just makes things easier for me because I really only have to do the budget once a month rather than every single time that we get paid. So what we do is we have all of our income go into our holding tank account, and then at the beginning of each month we divvy that up, pay into our savings accounts, our sinking funds, and to our cash envelopes, and then that is what we live off for the next month while all of our income accumulates again in the holding tank account. So we can do that again the next month. So we sit down at the end of each month, we have a look at what's in there, and then we divide it up depending on our goals and our master budget, which is basically a plan, a guideline for us to use to plan our money. So this month we're keeping to a very bare bones budget. We have dropped our groceries back just a little bit to $500. We are now only feeding a family of 4, so we are going to try and rein that in a little bit. So we're going to have a go at a $500 a month grocery budget. We should be pretty good, but it will take a little bit of adjustment as I learn to cook for less people. The other thing that has increased is we have upped our utilities a little bit. After we did our last master budget review, we decided that we would like to put a little bit extra aside for our utilities bills, and this is the thing, it fluctuates a little bit, which is why we do a master budget review twice a year, just to make sure that the amounts that we are allocating for our sinking funds is enough to actually cover our expenses. So basically what we've got happening here, we are not allocating anything for variable expenses like eating out, takeaway, coffees, those sorts of things. We're going to go without those again this month, but we are adding 2 new savings accounts. One is a straight up, I've put $500 aside for a new swag for Shan and I. We've decided that we are going to sell our rooftop tent and we're going to just try camping in a swag for a little bit and see if that's a little bit easier for Shan to manage, because he's really struggling in the rooftop tent. The other thing is that I have started a new car fridge sinking fund, or savings account, sorry, I should say. So we're going to save up to replace our car fridge, which is on the way out. So when we go camping, we use a fridge in our car. So we're going to replace that. At the moment, the one that we're looking at is about $1,800. So we're going to start saving up towards that, but we are also going to try and get that when it is on special. And hopefully in a couple of months' time, we will have enough money to buy it. That's how we buy things now. That's how we roll. So that's our budget this month. Really basic, really simple. Some of these things are going to be direct debits and digital payments, and then some of these things, the ones that are circled in red, I've pulled out as cash, and we're going to go ahead and stuff those cash envelopes. So if you'd like a more detailed rundown of what's happening in the budget, you can always head over to the blog where I explain all of this in a little bit more detail. But that, in a nutshell, is October's budget. So let's go ahead and stuff these envelopes. All right, so this is my cash envelope wallet. It is actually just a planner that I picked up from Kmart. It was about $10. I don't think they have this exact design available anymore, but they do have ones that are very similar. I like the ones that have the press stud clasp on it rather than the Velcro ones, but you know, that's totally up to you. I took out all of the inside planning parts and I just used that for other things and put cash envelopes in them. Now the cash envelopes, I do get asked about this as well. I made these myself. I made these myself. There is a video for the previous set that I made, which I will link up above. The system and the template that I used is exactly the same. The only difference is these ones are a side fold, the other ones were a top fold. So basically I didn't glue this side down and I did glue the top fold down to make a side fold. Otherwise it's the exact same template that I used to make these, and these are just made out of cardboard. And they last pretty well. I don't know which ones I prefer. I think I do prefer the side fold open rather than top fold, but really it's much of a muchness really. So let's jump in and have a look at our envelopes this month and what is happening. I can already tell you straight off the bat, we're not going to fund our alcohol envelope, our date night envelope, our family fun, or our eating out, which covers things like coffees and snacks on the go and things like that. So we're electing not to fund these envelopes again this month. We are going to put as much money as we can into our house savings account. So I'm just going to put these aside because we're not going to use those. And let's get started with our first envelope, which is our grocery allocation. And this month I'm going to allocate $500 for groceries. The basic premise that we work off is I allocate $100 per person plus $100 for the house for our groceries. Now, in all fairness, I don't buy a lot of cleaning products and personal products out of the grocery allocation. It really is mostly just for food. If I do buy cleaning products and things like that, I tend to do a big bulk buy purchase, in which case I will allocate money for that separately. But I do throw the occasional few things in with our grocery shopping, like toiletries and maybe the odd cleaning product, or say baking paper or cling wrap or something like that. So that's how we allocate. It's just what works for us, and we're going to see how we go with $500 this month for our family of 4. I am used to budgeting $600, but we had one of our older children move out of home, so he's living independently in town in a share house, so he's having a ton of fun, and I get to cut back our grocery budget a little bit, which is awesome. Next up is our fuel allocation. We have 2 cars, but at the moment nobody's really going very far, so I'm just going to allocate $150 for fuel for both of our cars. We do live out of town, so we do have a little bit of traveling involved when we go to and from town for appointments and errands and shopping and things like that. But what we do try to do is try and do as much on one day as we can, so we're not running in and out of town. But that's our fuel allocation, $150. Next up is our splash cash allocation. This is our personal spending money, and this is just for Shan and I to spend on absolutely whatever we want. So we can use this for eating out and coffees and takeaway and things like that if we want to, but it is our own spending money. So Shan's going to get $50, which he's going to put in his wallet, so I'm going to give that to him separately. I get $50, which goes into my splash cash envelope, and as you can see, I haven't really been spending a lot lately. In September, I did spend a little bit more of my splash cash on some things like eating out and coffees and takeaways. Charlotte was quite sick the last couple of weeks, so there was a lot of running around going to doctor's appointments and bribery with McDonald's Happy Meals, which did come out of my splash cash and a little bit out of Shan's splash cash. But at the moment, we're not really doing terribly much, and so I'm sort of saving mine for, I'm not sure, I'm sort of tossing up between a couple of different things. I'm maybe thinking about getting an air fryer. I don't know. I usually tend to end up blowing it on bullet journaling supplies and stickers and washi tape and things like that, but that's my thing. Shan uses his for whatever he wants. This is what we will use for treats and things like that too. So if you're ever having a peek inside my freezer and you see markdown coffees, iced coffees, or you see ice cream, that all comes out of our splash cash rather than coming out of our grocery allowance. So grocery allowance is actually genuinely for groceries, for food, for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Treats, however, treats come out of our splash cash. So that's what we use that for. And not only does it help keep our grocery budget in line, but I think it helps keep our waistlines in line as well, because we try not to put too many treats in the trolley. And if we do, we do take it out of our splash cash. So that's splash cash, personal spending money, blow money, whatever you want to call it. You know what it is, and that's what we do with it. All right, so what else? We do have our miscellaneous allowance, which again is one of those things. It's allocated for unallocated purchases, if that makes sense. I'm going to put $100 aside in our miscellaneous, and it covers things that either don't have a budget line or are a bit of a spur of the moment type of expense. So some things that come out of our miscellaneous spending may be, for example, last month I bought some seeds and some seed raising mix for the veggie garden. I don't actually have a gardening budget line. If I did a lot of that sort of stuff, I may consider putting that line in my budget and then have it specifically for gardening and stuff like that, but I don't. It's just every now and then I will pick up some things as we need it. So it comes out of our miscellaneous spending, and it can cover absolutely anything that we need to buy or we want to buy that is not specifically covered in our budget. The other thing that we have, so this is miscellaneous, the other thing that we have, which is a budget line, it's not a cash envelope, but we always keep a buffer of $100 on our transaction card, which also covers things like emergencies, or like mini emergencies, or things that we're unbudgeted for, or things that we forgot to budget for. So if we have a bill or something that comes up that I forgot to put in the budget, then we have a buffer of $100 in our account as well. So that's what we use our miscellaneous for. Again, it's another catch-all envelope, spending allocation envelope, and we also have that buffer. And what I do with the buffer is I just top it up. So last month I used $10 out of our buffer, and I topped it back up to $100 when I did this month's budget, and I transferred over all the money for our direct debits and sinking funds and things like that. Clothing, I'm going to put $50 into our clothing allocation. We had to do a couple of trips to a bigger town, so we took that as an opportunity to get Charlotte some new clothes. So I have spent a little bit out of our clothing allocation, and I do divide it up between people. So I'm going to put that back in there. That's going to start Charlotte's clothing fund again, and I do have, I don't know, there's a couple of $100 there in our clothing envelope. Now, one thing I will say about this envelope, because it does tend to end up with a couple of $100 in there, I don't leave this one in my envelope wallet. I leave this one in our safe at home until I'm going to use it, and then I will take some of the cash out of it when I go shopping. The reason why I do this is twofold. One, I don't want to lose my cash envelope wallet and then lose like all of the money. But the other thing is that I don't want to be tempted by this either. This is for clothing and I only want to spend it on clothing. So if I don't have it with me when I'm out and about, I'm not going to be tempted to spend it on something that it has not been allocated for. And I do the same sort of thing with the grocery budget. So you saw me put $500 in there, but what I do is I take out $150 when I'm going to go to the grocery store, and then that's all I've got. I've got $150 to spend on groceries, and I leave the rest of it at home so I'm not tempted to spend more than what I've allocated. All right, last one today is going to be a personal care envelope, and I'm going to put $100 in there. That covers all sorts of things like haircuts, personal care products, shampoo, conditioner, shaving stuff. I would say makeup, but to be totally honest with you, I really don't wear makeup. So, but that would all come out of personal care. So $100 going in there to cover all of those sorts of things. And that, my friends, is the last envelope. That's all done. So that is this month's allocation. There isn't really a lot happening because we really are working on getting as much put aside as we can for our house savings. But that's it. There are envelopes for October. Well, there you have it. That is everything that's happening in our budget for October. It is very much a bare bones budget. Once again, we are working really hard, saving as much as we can, putting everything that we can into our house savings account. So we are choosing to go without a few little discretionary spending things, those things like eating out and alcohol and coffees. We're going to do away with those sorts of things. We're going for a bare bones, just covering the basics that we need so that we can put as much money as we can into our house savings fund again this month. Oh, and don't forget, if you did enjoy today's video, if you could please give it a thumbs up, I would really appreciate that. It does let me know the kind of content that you guys are enjoying and what you would like to see more of. And don't forget, if you would like to see more videos like this, then maybe hit that subscribe button down the bottom. You could even tick that little bell because that will notify you when my new videos go live. Oh, and you know what? If you are all about that budget life too, then we should totally hang out. Why don't you come over to Instagram or to Facebook? You can find me at Nikki Beale over there as well. And come over and say g'day. I would love to get to know you a little bit better. And we can always hang out over there as well. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go finish off my budget. I'm going to go and pay the bills that I have that are due. Finish transferring money, sending it to all the different places that it's got to go. And our budget is done for October. All right, well, I hope you have a great week and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye.